Go for the 2.com in with the week 11 predictions. I can't believe we're through the month of November already. And we had upset city in week number 10. Amazing upsets. TCU over Baylor, Purdue over Michigan State, just to name a few. And I'm sure the stage is set for a great weekend of college football entering week number 11. If you want all the top 25 battles on this video, along with the breakdowns and analysis of the picks, tune into College Football Full Circle every day, Monday through Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern, Sirius Channel 159, not 204, 159 every day, Monday through Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. College Football Full Circle, we get you started. The under the radar games, we try to go through the whole slate to get you prepared for Saturday. Give you picks at the end. I include the picks that are on this video along with some others that I mix and match throughout the show. So tune in every day, 1 to 2 p.m., Sirius Channel 159, College Football Full Circle. Then Saturdays, the 3-hour pregame kickoff show, 9 to 12 p.m., College Football Today, sportsgrid.com, Sirius Channel 159, and then 12 to 2, we get you with the in-game live perspective for the 12 o'clock games. We talk about analysis, the in-game wagering perspective. You can hit us up on Twitter. We break it down for you according to the books, according to the action on the field. So tune in every Saturday, 9 to 12, College Football Today, Sirius Channel 159, and in-game live, 12 to 2, Sirius Channel 159, and the video portion on sportsgrid.com. So check it out. Going to be about 9 picks on the video, very Big Ten heavy, very SEC heavy. So keep an eye out. I'll break down all the analysis as much as I can in the video, but then throughout the week on why I like a particular team. So check it out Monday through Friday. Let's jump into the selections. It starts Friday night. You have 6th-ranked Cincinnati on the road against UCF. Cincinnati has won 3 straight in the series by an average margin of victory of 12 points per game. Picked up this victory last year, 28-7 in the early portion of the season. You have a USF team that's playing much better against some of the better teams in conference. A couple of weeks ago, they went toe-to-toe with East Carolina, which were leading at the half and then fell behind to lose that matchup by 12 points. They allowed 251 rushing yards to the Pirates in that ball game. Started fast again against Houston, had a double-digit lead as a 12.5, 13-point underdog, and then found a way to lose it in the second half. This is a team that's fighting for their coach, Jeff Scott, in year number 2. They're getting much improved, especially on the offense and defensive lines. However, they're still not there yet. They're a young team, inexperienced at the quarterback position with Timmy McClain. He's a freshman. He is the quarterback of the future, but very inconsistent in terms of his passing and pocket presence right now. 45% completion percentage. Marsh and Cade Fortin are sophomores. They're inexperienced as well, and I think that's a factor why I favor Cincinnati in this ballgame. Cincinnati has not looked good. 3 straight wins over Navy, Tulane, and last week on Tulsa. They were on life support, recovered a fumble with 2 minutes left, up 28-20. There was the potential that could have been an overtime game. They have not looked good, and they need to break out of it in a big way. Now you have a short week. I think this matchup really favors Cincinnati in the trenches. You talk about this game being won. It's going to be won due to the physicality of the offensive line of Cincinnati, their ability to wear down a very smaller defensive front in USF, and the inexperience of the quarterbacks position, Timmy McClain, Marsh, Fortin. It doesn't matter who starts. You're going up against a very experienced secondary in Cincinnati, very opportunistic, like I mentioned, plus 12 in turnover margin. The fact that I think it's a short week, actually, I believe benefits Cincinnati to forget about that poor performance as a 23.5-point favorite. Now they get a chance on the road to erase that. All eyes will be on the product at 6 p.m. I think they step up in a big way and dominate this ball game from start to finish. Look for Des Ridder to break out through the passing game. This is a USF secondary that is suspect, giving up around 250 passing yards per game. Cincinnati starts fast. They win this ball game by 30 points or more Friday night under the lights in Tampa. Let's keep it in the state of Ohio. You have Ohio State At home, a lackluster performance over Nebraska, 14.5-point favorite. Started fast, did not cover that ball game. They allowed Nebraska to creep back in. It was a four-quarter game again. Turnovers bit this team. C.J. Stroud and the offense looked inconsistent in the second half. And on the flip side, you have a team in Purdue hitting on all cylinders. 536 yards against Michigan State. They started fast, 21-14 halftime lead. Never looked back. Aiden O'Connell, David Bell, they were the stars of the day. A dominant performance against a suspect Michigan State defense. They allowed 536 yards to the Purdue offense through the air. And Purdue's going to look to carry that into the horseshoe going up against the Ohio State defense. However, I think when you look at this matchup, a couple of factors. Purdue is playing very well right now. They have two more key top 5 wins over Iowa, Michigan State. However, let's break it down a little bit. You look at Iowa, you look at Michigan State, not elite speed on the perimeter. This is not Ohio State speed when we break both of these offenses down. They're good. They like to run the football. They like to wear you down with the physical offensive line. Ohio State's going to run up-tempo, and if Purdue wants to play that high-scoring game, Ohio State's built to play that way. So I think that's a bad matchup for Jeff Brom and the Purdue Boilermakers. They're a one-dimensional offense. They're only averaging around 80 rushing yards per game heading into this ball game. The ability for the front seven to get pressure on O'Connell and, more importantly, put them into long third down situations, I think is the reason why Ohio State covers this game. I know there's the potential look ahead against Michigan State, but due to the fact that Purdue knocked off Ohio State a few years ago as a 29.5-point underdog against Urban Meyer, they're going to have Ohio State's attention, especially since they knocked off Michigan State. No look ahead here. Ohio State starts fast. I think they win this ball game anywhere from 28 to 30 points over the Boilermakers. They're laying a huge number, but playing at home, speed type of game, I favor the Ohio State offense in this ball game going up against Aiden O'Connell and the crew. I said it was going to be very Big Ten heavy. Let's talk about Michigan State at home against Maryland. Maryland played very well for a half against Penn State, 10 up in that ball game in the second quarter. In the third quarter and fourth quarter was the Sean Clifford to Jahan Dotson show. They passed for over 400 yards on that defense against Maryland and did win and cover 31-17. When you look at Michigan State right now college football playoff appearance is most likely not in their favor after they lost that ball game to Purdue. They do have Ohio State on deck. Are they looking ahead to that ball game? But on the flip side, you have a Maryland team that, one, is fighting for bowl contention with 5 wins on the year, and 2, has the type of offense to still challenge that secondary over the top. This is a Maryland offense that threw for 317 on a very good defense in Penn State at home. So they were able to move the football through the air, and I think that's going to be the recipe for Mike Locksley on the road against Michigan State. Michigan State allowed 536 to Purdue. They're allowing 326 against opposing offenses this year. Prior to the Purdue game, it was 300 yards per game. Michigan State has won 3 straight in the series by an average margin of victory of 11.3 points per game. Last played a couple of years ago against the Terps. But I like Maryland's offense going up against the defense of Michigan State. They expended a lot of energy over back-to-back weeks against Michigan and now Purdue. They now come back home. Team fighting for bowl contention in Maryland. They might not win, but I feel they cover this 13-point number on the road in East Lansing against Kenneth Walker and Peyton Thorne in this ball game. It's going to be a very close ball game, I believe, but in the end, Michigan State might win, but Maryland does cover the 13-point number Saturday afternoon in East Lansing. Another Big Ten battle is the big one at 12 o'clock. You have Michigan going on the road to face Sean Clifford and Penn State. Penn State has won 2 straight in the series by an average margin of victory right in the area of about 8.5 points per game. Picked up this victory a couple of years ago, 28-21 in Happy Valley. Jumped out to a 21-0 lead. They held on for a 7-point win. And then last year, they lost their first 5 games. They went on the road as a 4.5-point dog to Jim Harbaugh and the crew. Won that ball game outright 27-17. When you look at this ball game, it's strength on strength, right? Michigan needs to win to have a shot at the college football playoff. As long as they win out and knock off Ohio State, they're going to the Big Ten championship game. They're going to have an opportunity to potentially be a college football playoff contender, assuming that Ohio State wins out against Michigan State. So we'll see how these games play out, but that's what Michigan has on the table heading into this ball game against Penn State. Michigan, we know, wants to run the football, averaging well over 200 yards per game. They wore down a very undersized Indiana defense, especially in the second half. Status quo. They ran the football, worked off a play action with Cade McNamara, and now they're going to face a very athletic defensive front in Penn State. This game comes down to two factors. One, you look at Michigan in terms of the road environment, on the road or on the neutral field site since 2017, just a pedestrian 14-11 overall. Michigan did lose on the road to East Lansing. Michigan State did force an up-tempo type of game. They wanted to jump up early. They came from behind, the Spartans did, and were not afraid to go toe-to-toe with the Wolverines. But if you're Michigan in this matchup, again, you do not have the quarterback advantage with Cade McNamara or J.J. McCarthy going up against Sean Clifford. You just don't have it. And on the flip side, you have a Penn State team that has been dominant at home. They're 4-1 this year at home. Last loss we know was a couple of weeks ago to Illinois in 9 overtimes. Since 2016 under James Franklin, 32-6 straight up at home in Happy Valley. Another reason why I favor Penn State in this ballgame, not only the quarterback advantage, the secondary advantage going up against Cade McNamara, and the fact of you look at back-to-back games against Maryland and Ohio State, Yurcich, the offensive coordinator, is in a rhythm now. They have converted Penn State 21 of 34 third down conversions. That's 61%. If Penn State sustains drives early, scores, and keeps Cade McNamara and that offense on the sidelines, they're going to be up. They're going to force Michigan out of their game plan. They're going to force Michigan to play from behind. That's something that Michigan has not done all year long. Even in the game in Michigan State, it wasn't until the last drive that they were forced to play from behind. Michigan comes out. They dictate the tempo early. That allows them to rely on the heavy offensive line. They don't have the quarterback advantage in this one, and this is still a team in Penn State that wants to utilize the best player on the field in Jahad Dotson that had 11 receptions for 242 yards. So if they look to press tempo, this could be a long matchup for Michigan. Don't like Jim Harbaugh on the road. I know they're the better team on paper, but give me Penn State to strike the upset over the Michigan Wolverines in this ballgame. Another big battle takes place in Iowa City. You're talking about Big Ten West on the line. There's 4 teams that are 4-2, in the division, including Iowa and Minnesota overall. From the series perspective, Iowa's won 6 straight in the series by an average margin of victory of 11.3 points per game. Last 4 games have been decided by 14 points per game. Picked up this victory last year, 35-7. And on the flip side, we have a Minnesota team that was absolutely pathetic last week against Illinois as a 15.5-point favorite. Everything was in front of them. They came out flat. Tanner Morgan looked horrible. Both of those offenses were pathetic in terms of moving the football through the air. But if you look at Minnesota this year, they're a very solid road team. They're 3-0 straight up on the road this year. And one of those victories was a 20-13 win in West Lafayette over the Purdue Boilermakers. How good does that win look now as they head on the road in Iowa City to a team that they have not won in 6 straight meetings? But I like the quarterback matchup here. I know Tanner Morgan did not look good. I like PJ Fleck as a 6-point underdog heading into this ballgame. A couple of reasons why I back Minnesota. One, front 7 is given up right in the area of about 100 rushing yards per game. That's the strength of Iowa with Tyler Goodson. They want to ground and pound. They want to work off of play action. And when you look at third down defense for the Golden Gophers, holding opposing offenses to right in the area of about 36% of third down conversions. If they can force 3 and outs against that Iowa offense, they're going to have an opportunity to score, have a short field, and catching 6 points in a must-win type of situation on a battle-tested team that plays well on the road. I like Minnesota's chances to win this ballgame outright against Spencer Petras and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Not sold on the consistency of both teams, but I'll take the 6 points with PJ Fleck in this spot in Iowa City. Let's break down some SEC games. Big battle taking place in Tennessee. We got the marquee battle of the weekend. I mean, unbelievable. How about the job that Josh Heupel has done in terms of his tutelage with Hendon Hooker and this Tennessee offense? Tennessee struggled, and from that Florida loss, they really have come on and found consistency. They're a balanced offense, rushing for well over 200 yards per game, 240 passing yards per game. They have just found their groove from a tempo perspective that I think will not only carry through to the second half of the year, but will carry through, obviously, to 2022. When you look at just the series perspective, Georgia has dominated the series. They have won 4 straight over the Tennessee Volunteers by an average margin of victory of right in the area of about 23.5 points per game. They're laying 20.5 on the road. This is only Georgia's second true road environment. They played week 1 in Charlotte, a neutral field against Clemson. They won that ball game. They just played Florida on a neutral field. The only true road environment that Georgia had was a few weeks ago against Bo Nix and the Auburn Tigers. Granted, it was a rivalry game. They laid 16.5. They dominated that ball game 34-10. But we know there's 110,000 fans in Neyland Stadium against going and rooting for a team that is fighting for bowl contention. And I think that's the biggest thing. When we look at the last big game in Neyland Stadium a few weeks ago, Tennessee was locked and loaded to push Ole Miss to the limit. That game came down to the final drive. Joe Milton could not get it done. Obviously, Ole Miss is not Georgia in terms of a defensive perspective heading into this ballgame. I think there's no doubt that Georgia wins this ballgame, but in the end, I think the tempo of Tennessee allows them to be well within this number of 20.5. Playing at home, I don't think Georgia's seen a type of tempo in terms of time between plays that could potentially wear down this Georgia defense. I think the mobility of Hendon Hooker is an issue in this matchup. He's coming off a 317-yard performance, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. His mobility on the perimeter, I think, can be utilized, something that Dan Mullen and the Florida offense failed to do with Anthony Richardson. I think this is the team that actually puts up some points against the Georgia defense this coming Saturday. Again, I think Georgia wins this ball game, but I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. In the end, Georgia wins. Tennessee does cover the 20.5 point number against the Bulldogs. Let's keep it in the SEC. We have 2 big ball games. We have Texas A&M on the road against Ole Miss. Texas A&M has won 3 straight in the series. Last time they played was a couple of years ago. They picked up a 7-point win against the Rebels. Now they go on the road. This is a team coming off a dominating home performance as a 4.5 point favorite over Auburn. I thought Auburn would step up. They got inconsistency out of Bo Nix. He only threw for 157 yards in that ballgame. No touchdowns, 1 interception. On the flip side, Isaiah Spiller and that offense were able to pound the rock and stay in manageable third downs all day long for Zach Calzada and a very good Auburn defense. This game was won in the trenches by the Texas A&M Aggies. They now go on the road to face a speed team in Ole Miss, playing very well and well in terms of Lane Kiffin's offense. They're not just lighting it up and trying to beat teams 55-50. They're actually running the football a little bit better with Jerrion Ealy. They're more balanced in terms of their offensive approach. They're sustaining drives, which is keeping explosive offenses on the sidelines. But it's not just their offense. Their defense has been very opportunistic this year. You look at this matchup, Ole Miss plus 12 in turnover margin heading into this ballgame. And I have the better quarterback, Matt Corral, over Zach Calzada, especially Zach Calzada on the road. Again, if the running game isn't as effective as it's been, Zach Calzada is going to have to make plays. He's not playing at home in Kyle Field. He doesn't have the home crowd around him. He's on the road in the Grove. This is a very difficult matchup. I'd like Ole Miss here to potentially strike the upset. They're catching around 2.5, 3 points. Better quarterback, opportunistic defense, Lane Kiffin. I'll take my chances. Ole Miss outright over Texas A&M this coming weekend. We're keeping it in the state of Mississippi. Miss State on the road against Auburn. Miss State played very well against Arkansas. Ruiz, the kicker, missed 2 field goals that had Mike Leach call out a walk-on. walk-on tryouts this week in Starkville. He's throwing the kicker under the bus, but I was very impressed. I was on Arkansas. I gave that out last week. Arkansas was there from start to finish, but in the end, that was a gutty effort from an offensive defensive perspective by the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They fell behind 13-0. They could have folded, but they found their resolve. They found and stuck to the game plan. Will Rogers stepped up with a 417-yard performance, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. They then made this a 4-quarter game and were in a position to tie this ball game up. Now they go on the road to face an Auburn team that's reeling after a loss. Auburn has won 2 straight in the series. But when you look at the quarterback position right now, Bo Nix back to the old Bo Nix, very inconsistent. They didn't run the football effectively with Tank Bigsby. They were in long third downs for much of the afternoon against a superior defense in Texas A&M. And when you look at this matchup now, Brian Horse and Mike Leach, got to give the coaching advantage to Mike Leach on the road. This team is playing very well over the last few weeks. They're in ball games. I have the quarterback advantage, catching 5.5 points to a team that I lost 2 straight in terms of the series to over the past couple of years. I think Auburn might be coming back down to earth. They were peaking a couple of weeks ago. That performance last week leaves me to doubt them heading into this matchup. I think Mississippi State, from a defensive perspective, playing better in the secondary and playing much better on third downs, contain KJ Jefferson, especially in the second half of that matchup. I like Mississippi State to win this ball game outright. Catching 5.5 points, I think they get it done over Bo Nix and the Auburn Tigers this coming Saturday. Another big battle takes place in the ACC. Talking about NC State and Wake Forest. NC State did pick up this victory last year, 45-42. On the flip side, we had Wake Forest lose an unbelievable matchup to North Carolina. Ty Chandler and that offense were able to pound the rock well over 200 yards. That was the difference. Sam Hartman had the football, opportunity to tie, couldn't get it done. And in the end, Wake Forest did lose that matchup. However, that game did not count to the ACC standings. They're still 5-0 in the conference. But this is a team in NC State that really wants to step up and make a statement. They were the team that knocked off Clemson. They have an opportunity to now knock off the best team in the conference in the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, and they have the type of defense that I think could go toe-to-toe with Wake Forest's offense and Sam Hartman. We know that Wake Forest wants to run up tempo. They got into a shootout last year, but I've been very impressed in terms of NC State's defense heading into this ball game. They're only allowing 92 rushing yards per game to opposing offenses, one of the top third down defenses in all of college football, 26% in terms of third down defense. I think that carries well on the road. They're +4 in turnover margin. And more importantly, we talk about Sam Hartman. You got to talk about Devin Leary as well, a senior quarterback, 25 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. I like NC State. They're a battle-tested team, senior-laden team, and you know they want to pound the rock between the tackles with their running backs Person and Bam Knight. If they can establish the line of scrimmage just the way North Carolina did, they're going to win this ball game convincingly, 7 points or more. I like NC State in this matchup. Those are the selections for week number 11. Tune into the radio show, College Football Full Circle, Monday through Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern, and then College Football Today, 9 to 12 Saturday, 9 to 12 Eastern, and then 12 to 2 with In-Game Live, Sirius Channel 159, sportsgrid.com. Have a great week, everyone. I'll see you on Saturday.